Hi everyone, it's Keely here for Soy and Shea, and thank you so much for joining me. I know so many of you have been patiently waiting to see what I do with these coconuts, which I made in the behind the scenes video this week. If you haven't seen that video yet, check out the link up above and you can see how I made them. They really are very easy. Today's soap is going to be made with a fragrance from out of my haul video, which is Copper Coconut Type, which I believe is a Bath & Body Works dupe. Because of that, I'm renaming my soap to Beachside Coconut. Now, when I first smelt this fragrance oil, to me it was such a comforting smell of sea salt caramels with hints of coconut chips through them. And when I read the description of this one, it was listed as having aromas of raw coconut, sea salt, orange, tonka and amber through it. And all of those fragrance notes really do come through to give a really nice rounded aroma. This fragrance oil does have vanillin in it, but I'm going to discuss vanillin a little bit later on down in the video. It's not a lot of vanillin, so I do use some titanium dioxide just to combat any discoloring that may occur. But if you are interested to see how much this soap does discolor over time, don't forget to follow along with me on Instagram, and I will post some pictures of these in a couple of weeks once they've finished their cure. But for now, let's go and make our Beachside Coconut Soap. We're going to get started, and in my big bucket here I have my blend of oils, and you'll find my recipe down below in the description box. I also have my lye water solution here, and both are down to room temperature of about 25 degrees. I do also have a new stick blender. We'll see how this one goes. I didn't realize when I first got this that the actual blending part on the bottom of this are quite small blades, so I'm hoping that we will still be able to get a really nice emulsion with this stick blender. We'll see how we go with it. So I'm going to start by pouring my lye water solution down my stick blender just to avoid any splashback. I'm going to mix it up to emulsion, and then I'm going to split it out for my colours. Here I have mixed some Olive Grove mica from my Mica Obsession with a little bit of the oils before I started, and that is so that I can do a little bit of piping. I'm also going to do a very small drop swirl using this green just to bring together the inside of the soap with the top. And then into these buckets here I have some red desert mica to get that real copper sort of look. So in there, and then in my other container I am going to put in some mocha mica. I'm then going to mix these up, pour in the fragrance, and then hand stir that in before getting to pouring it into the mould. So the verdict on this stick blender, and I got this from Kmart for anyone here in Australia, is I don't like it. You can see on the bottom here the actual blades are really small, so it's taking a lot more to get things to actually mix in, and it's really not got that sort of mixing power, I feel, to mix everything well. But it might do for some of the smaller batches of soap that I do, so all is not lost on that one. I'm going to give that a bit of a stir, and then I'm going to add in my fragrance oil. So I have already weighed how much oil is in here, and I know I've got enough to do this entire batch with. I am going to start by pouring it into the brown and see what actually happens, and then I can determine what I'm going to do with the rest of the soap here and how I'm going to pour it. Alright, so far so good, but I know that I have jinxed myself in the past. I am going to pour the rest in here. I'm going to pour just a little bit into the green. I'm going to keep stirring these up, and then I will pop them into the mould. Because this has stayed such a beautiful fluid batter, I think the thing to do with this is a drop swirl, and then maybe with a bit of a chopstick swirl through there, or even a hanger swirl. We'll see what I grab when I go to do the swirl side of things. So I'm just going to start with that white, and then I'm going to add in the copperish colour and the brown, and then we'll just put a little bit of green in, as I said, just to tie the top into the actual soap bar itself. So I'm really happy with how this is looking so far. I am now going to go and put the green into a piping bag, and we'll be back in just 1 minute to finish off the top. Right, so I'm back to do just a little bit of piping on here, and in my piping bag here I have a petal tip. It's a Wilton 103, and I'm going to try and attempt to pipe some palm leaves. So I have popped my loaf onto a spinning cake tray just so I can try and maneuver this the way I need it to go, and I'm going to start by just squeezing and kind of zigzagging as I go up, and once I get to the top I'm just going to turn and I'm going to come back down, and we'll just make a little bit of a tail on the end there. We'll do the next one. They kind of look like palm leaves. Alright, so on to the next one. I'm probably still just a little bit fluid, but I don't want the base of this soap to set up so much that I can't get my coconuts on. Just give that a little bit of a tail for the palm leaf. So when I'm doing these, I have the smaller end of the tip pointing towards what would be the center of the leaf. As I fill these in to go on the other side, I have the coconuts which we made in the Wednesdays behind the scenes video, and with these ones I'm just going to pop them straight in at the end, just on their side, and I just want to make sure I'm getting them in before the soap sets up too much, also making sure that we get them lined up between my cut lines. So let's pop these ones on as well. I do actually need to remark this particular mold, so hopefully I'll get these in the right place, and hopefully they look like they are on palm leaves. Now it looks like I have actually mucked up the lining up, so I'm going to go from this side and try and not worry about that side where I've remarked it. I'm going to have to find a different way of marking my molds, I think. So as mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm going to have a little bit of a chat about vanillin. Have you ever had a soap that you've made with a fragrance oil which you thought was vanillin free, and you've come back the next day only to discover that your soap has actually turned a shade of brown? It's because there are actually two different types of vanillin. And I'm not 100% convinced that the suppliers who do actually say how much vanillin is in their fragrance oils is telling us exactly which vanillins are in there. So this, as I said, there's two different types. There is vanillin, which is a crystal which is formed on the outside of vanilla beans, and it has a vanilla smell. And then there's another vanillin called ET vanillin, and this is a man-made form of vanillin, and it is a lot more potent than what the natural vanillin is. And quite often I think suppliers are putting in this ET vanillin and not always telling us So that they may say that it has 0 vanillin, which it probably does, but it may have this ET vanillin in it, and that is very much so responsible for soaps and candles and all other bath and body products from discoloring. With this particular fragrance oil, for example, on my notes, it says it has 0.5% vanillin, and then in ET vanillin, there's actually 1.4% ET vanillin. So I'm interested to see how much this one will actually discolor. Because that ET vanillin is a lot more potent, I am pretty sure this one will actually get a creamy color to it, but only time will actually tell. So when you are looking at fragrances like that Just Scents, which is where I've had this copper coconut from, they do tell you both vanillin and ET vanillin amounts, but I know a lot of the other suppliers only list vanillin, and whether that means that they're just working off the natural vanillin or whether they are actually declaring all forms of vanillin, I really couldn't tell you. But if your soap does go a shade of brown when it says that it has 0 vanillin, chances are it is because it has ET vanillin in it and the supplier hasn't declared it. So I'm just going to pop the last few of these coconuts on here, and then I'm going to bring you down for a closer look of what will be called beachside coconuts. Just before I bring you down, I've just decided to give this a very quick spritz with some Bronze Sparks mica, just to try and pick up some of the grooves in the palm leaves that we've piped here. My piping was probably a little bit too fluid, but I was also getting to that point where I wasn't going to be able to put the coconuts into the soap if I didn't start moving quick. So that is really picking those up now. Just make sure all of those are in properly, and then I will bring you down. Here is Beachside Coconut up close. You can see where that Bronze Sparks is really highlighted where each of the individual leaves are on those palm fronds, and the coconuts are looking so super cute on there. It is smelling really, really good. You do get that sort of sea salt smell out of it with the bit of coconut. It almost smells like a salted caramel coconut sort of soap. I am going to leave this one sit here overnight, and then I am going to come back tomorrow and we'll cut it open and we'll see what swirls we've got on the inside. I am back to cut into this Beachside coconuts. It did get warm. You can see the cracking on the top of there. So because of that heating, I am highly suspecting I am going to have glycerin rivers on the inside here. I'm going to hopefully get this all lined up because, as I mentioned, I'm pretty sure that the markings on my mold were a little bit off. But as long as I don't cut into the coconuts, I will be happy with that. The fragrance has mellowed out a little bit. It smells more like caramel than that sort of sea salt caramel I was getting at the beginning. But I often find in that sort of first 24 hours, my fragrances will quite often mellow out. And then as they sit and cure, the smells actually suddenly come back again. So hopefully by the time this one is ready, we'll start picking up a lot more of that sea salt and coconut smell out of it as well. It is still smelling really good. Now this is going to sound really odd, but I've just had a quick smell of the end of that soap to see if the fragrance was still on the inside, and it is. So it's just the actual outside of the soap. So hopefully as this sits and cures, that smell will permeate right to the edges of this soap, and it is looking absolutely gorgeous on the inside. That swirl has come up so well. It's really fine and detailed, and there's just enough green in there to tie it onto the top of the soap there. There are little bits of glycerin river in there, but considering I thought we were going to have lots in there due to the heat that this one generated, there isn't a lot in there. So I am really, really happy with this one. That is another piece. It has just swirled together so well, and all those colours do match in really well, and I am loving those palm leaves and the coconuts on top. Right, so we'll just grab the next piece here, and again, we have some beautiful swirls in this one. I am so happy with how that red desert mica has come up. It's the first time I've used it in a soap. It's a little bit thicker particle of mica, so you really do get that sort of glistering effect from off it, and I'm really pleased with how that's come up. I hope you have enjoyed watching how I make my beachside coconuts using that copper coconut fragrance oil. If you did, why not leave me a thumbs up and any comments down below. If you've got any questions, I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And if you are new around here or you haven't yet subscribed, why not hit that subscribe button and the little bell, and it will let you know the next time I bring you a video. So thank you so much for watching, and until the next behind the scenes video, I hope you have a great week. Bye.